Hi, and welcome to the third video in the appNovi user guide video series. Today we're going to be talking about appNovi's compositions. Compositions are a way to repeatedly query appNovi's assets and connections between those assets for specific findings. Some of these can come out of the box, and you can search for them in the composition search bar. Examples of this are CIS Control 1 and 2, where we give you a continuous dynamic inventory of all your clients, servers, and software running in your environment. You can add a new composition by clicking New Composition in the bottom left, Add Rule, and you can start searching by either components, which are assets in the graph, metadata, which is more specific to things like vulnerabilities and CVEs. You can also search by applications, either all applications or an example of them, and connections as well. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to look for specific components. I'm going to type server, which should bring me down to server. Whenever you're making compositions, understand that there's a hierarchy. So the top level of the hierarchy for server is all sub-server types. But you could further filter just by EC2, just VMware VMs, physical, other servers. But for this case, we're going to do any server. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a property match. You can see there's a couple top level things you can search by, such as company, data center, domain, value, last seen, first seen, user properties. So a simple search you may want to do is source. And you can do equals, but you can also do does not equal, is empty, exist, contains, not contains, greater than, less than. We also support regex. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do not contains, and I'm going to enter Sentinel-1. This will build a dynamic list of all my servers that do not or are not seen by Sentinel-1. Now another more efficient way to do this is to do this by user properties or properties that are coming from external sources, such as Sentinel-1, such as Azure, Rapid7, a lot of the different sources that I have added here. After you enter user properties, if you add a period, all the different properties attached to all the different assets in your environment will be populated. You can scroll through them or start typing, and they will be dynamically updated. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for devices, again, that do not have a Sentinel-1 agent. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say user properties of Sentinel-1 unique universal identifier, and I'm going to say is empty. And again, that brings me the list here. You can also add other filters, again, such as first seen and last seen, where we add a slider. And we can also add on top of it, let's say, metadata, such as a vulnerability or a CVE. You can add other things, such as application, and even more data, such as connected to, and in this case, I'm going to do a security event. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save this composition. If you'll notice, there's a checkbox here. Adding a checkbox for this, what it will do is it'll periodically run this composition, and there's a time series database that stores the amount and number of devices or assets that match this composition over time. I'm going to checkbox it here. In appNovi's latest release, we've also added composition actions. So you can email the results as an example based on this findings. And you could add, let's say, ethan@appnovi.com. I have another action of report assets to Rapid7. We'll be releasing more of these actions that help share information between your different tools and automate actions based on the findings in your composition rules. I'm going to give this composition a name. I'll call it User Guide Video Series 3. And I'm going to save it. Now when you save a composition, a few things are important to note. You can click Table, which will bring you back to the workspace, populate the matching assets, into the workspace and show you this tabular view. You can also see this asset here in the workspace. Not only that, but compositions become searchable. So when you come in, you can search, let's say, user guide, video series number 3. And the matching assets will be populated in here as well. Lastly, we're going to go into dashboard. What dashboards are some out of the box, but also highly customizable places where you can build out different dashboards and reporting based on your use case and stakeholder. This is the CIS control dashboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a new one. I'll call it user guide video series. And compositions can be used here as well. So I can say, pick out the widget that I want. I'll say single number. If I go to composition, I'll scroll to the bottom and I'll select user guide video series 3. That returns back the total number of matching assets that match that composition role. I can also do a table. I could add other things such as a property wheel. And also the layout is customizable based on your requirements. I'll save this, and I can share this with other members in my team as well. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to the next one.